Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss plastic, what it is, how to use it, and whether or not it makes sense for you to use it in your situation. I'm going to go over all that in this video, but before I do that, I'm JP Knowledge, and here on this channel I like to drop some knowledge on you about personal finance, savings, and how to maximize spend. If that's something you're interested in, please subscribe down below. Okay, so what is plastic? Plastic is an online payment service that allows you to use your credit card to send checks to places that normally would not accept credit cards. So for instance, if there actually happens to be situations you actually want to use your credit card for to pay certain bills, something like your rent, something like your taxes, Plastic actually will allow you to do this from using their service. So now you may wonder, well, which cards are actually accepted with it? So Plastic is accepted from all the major credit card carriers, but as you can see on here that the different credit card carriers will allow different things to be accepted for what type of payments they actually allow. So for instance, on here, MasterCard, they will allow you to use MasterCard to pay residential rent and mortgages, auto and educational, select business services, taxes, and government fees. Visa will allow you to do residential rent, auto, education, select business services, taxes, and government fees. Discover will allow you to do residential rent, mortgages, auto, education, select business services, taxes, and government fees. And then American Express, if you're in the US, you get residential rent, education, taxes, and government fees. And then if you're in Canada, you can get residential rent, education, select business services, taxes, and government fees. So with all of these, you'll actually be able to pay your rent with some of them. If it's going to be MasterCard or Discover Card, you can actually pay your mortgage with it. And then for the other ones, that they'll actually allow you to do education, and then it'll actually be taxes and government fees. So a lot of people actually like this service because of the way that you can actually be able to pay for your rent with this. And the reason for this is because for most people, their rent or their mortgage is going to be their highest expense each month. So if you can actually use your credit card for that and actually able to rack up points when using your credit card to actually get your highest expenses each month, for a lot of people, it's actually ended up being very beneficial. Now, it won't make sense to be using every single month for most people's situation. And I'm gonna go over the reason for that right now, because Plastic actually ends up having a 2.85 standard fee for when you actually end up using it. So if your rent is $1,000, that means that Plastic's gonna end up charging you $28.50. So normal use for Plastic isn't actually gonna make that much sense, because if you actually had, a card like the Citi Double Cash where you end up getting back 2%, that means that you're actually still going to be losing out on 0.85% with each transaction with Plastic. But there is going to be reasons for why you should want to use Plastic, and I'm going to go over that a little bit later on in the video, but I'm just going to go over the quick information for it. So standard fees end up being 2.85% for when you end up using Plastic. And then if you decide you want to use a debit card for it, you're going to end up having a 1% fee. As I showed before, they will accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and also American Express's charge cards as well. Plastic cannot be used to pay family, friends. It is intended to pay bills. Consumer gift cards and prepaid cards are not accepted, but payments made with business prepaid gift cards and payroll cards will continue to be accepted. Credit card payments count as purchases, not cash advances. So this is actually really key, because I remember I always wondered that when I first signed up for Plastic a while back, is that would it actually end up coming out as a cash advance? But it even says Plastic will actually prevent any payments that could possibly end up occurring as a cash advance. So pretty much they will actually allow you to know beforehand, hey, wait a minute, the card you're using, the credit card issuer is actually trying to make this be a cash advance, so you cannot do that payment. So this is actually an awesome thing that is actually with Plastic. So you don't actually have to worry about the possibility of a cash advance with your card. So you actually will end up getting points back with using your card. So if you do actually end up deciding to use the card and you end up having like $1,000 that you actually end up using the card, you are going to end up getting back your points, because it's going to seem as though you're just doing it as normal spend. Plastic sometimes will require proof that you are paying a legitimate expense. So what they'll do is they'll ask for things like invoice and stuff like that. So if you decide that you are going to send it for, your rent, they are going to ask for information about their landlord or the company that is connected with, the building that you're living in, because they want to make sure that you're actually doing everything legit. So that's the basic information that you do actually get with Plastic. Now we're going to go over some of the things that you can't do, the no-nos for Plastic. So you can't pay a credit card with your credit card. They're not going to allow you to do that. If you decide you are going to want to do that, what you need to do is get yourself a card that's going to allow you to do a balance transfer. That's going to make the most sense. But Plastic is not a service that is designed to do that. So you can't use Plastic for that. You cannot pay yourself. So you cannot use Plastic where all of a sudden you send yourself a check. Pretty much what Plastic is trying to do here is they're working with the credit card issuers to allow them to use your cards to pay certain expenses that a lot of people want to do, but they're also trying to prevent people from doing things like money laundering or trying to cheat the credit card issuers. So they're doing things to prevent that by, sending a check to yourself, by sending a check to your friends and relatives. They won't allow you to do any of these kind of things. It's all set up and designed to make sure that you're actually going to be using it for legitimate payments, and both you and the credit card issuer can actually benefit from the use of the credit card being used. So now that you know how plastic works, the things that you can't use plastic for, and the 2.85% that is charged to you when using plastic, the question may come to you of why would you use plastic? And the main reasons end up being for the sign-up bonuses. Because say you are someone who happens to have a credit card and there happens to be a high amount of spend that you need to do that's going to be hard for you to do each month to actually hit the sign-up bonus, plastic is going to be an amazing service for that. Because if you happen to have rent that happens to be, $1,000, $2,000, or if you happen to be with multiple people that you're living with and you have them all pay you and use plastic as a service, you can easily hit your sign-up bonuses every single time you end up getting a new credit card. I'm someone who doesn't spend that much each month, and plastic has actually really helped me out with hitting certain sign-up bonuses. And I tell a lot of other people to use it who are like myself, because I'll tell them, to get a certain credit card, and they'll see it and they'll go, oh my goodness, I have to spend $4,000 in 3 months. That seems really hard for me to do. For you watching this video, that might be really easy, whether you're someone who has a family or whether you're someone who ends up spending a lot. But for some people who just happen to, whether it be more frugal or just be someone who doesn't have that many expenses, happens to be like a student, it can end up being hard for a lot of people to end up hitting these certain sign-up bonuses. Like American Express has made it now 6 months to hit a lot of these sign-up bonuses, but before they used to only have it be 3 months for something like the MX Platinum. You had to spend $5,000 in that. And for a lot of people, this ended up being really hard. But what plastic can end up doing, though, is that if you are someone who happens to be frugal, or if you're someone who doesn't happen to spend that much money, you can use plastic as a service to pay possibly your biggest expense each month. So, as I said, rent and people's mortgage. So if you happen to live in an apartment that maybe costs you $1,000, $2,000, or if you live in the middle of America and your place costs, maybe $500, $600 each month, but say you happen to live with other people and then you have everyone pay you, and then all of a sudden you decide to pay your rent with that, you'll be able to hit every single sign-up bonus out there. Maybe some of the business credit cards will have a harder time hitting those sign-up bonuses, but for the vast majority of the personal credit cards, you should be able to hit them with using the service of plastic. So yes, even though you are getting charged 2.85% for using plastic, the sign-up bonuses are going to end up being somewhere along the lines of possibly 20, 30, 50% that you're going to end up getting back. So you might be losing a little bit of percentage to actually use the service, but you end up getting back a much higher percentage. It's actually going to end up making it make a lot of sense. And if you actually know how to use those points correctly for travel, you can make the percentage be worth even more than what you actually end up getting back for just the regular points from the sign-up bonuses. So this is the reason why plastic can actually end up being really, really great service. Now, it is very, very important to actually make sure that you are responsible with using the service plastic, because obviously, during this time of the pandemic, a lot of people have been hit hard with financial situations. So you have to always make sure that you do use your credit cards responsibly. So if you all of a sudden decide, oh my goodness, I can't really pay my rent, and I'm going to use plastic to do it, you don't want to do it to just rack up a bunch of credit card debt and put yourself in a position where you owe all this money to your credit card because you were trying to pay off your rent with using this card. Or if you're trying to move into a place and you're saying, hey, I'm going to use this to use the service, plastic to try to help pay my rent. It's just the best thing that you're going to want to do is just make sure that you actually have a plan with using the credit card. And normally, I feel like I wouldn't even have to say this, but since plastic's going to be doing it for bigger expenses as such things like your rent and your mortgage, it can be very quick and easy to end up racking up a lot of debt from using the service. So I guess technically, if you happen to get yourself, a card that actually had 0 APR for like the first year or year and a half, and then you did use plastic to end up using it to, pay off your rent for a certain amount of months, and you actually did have a plan to pay it back, then maybe it can end up making sense. But just please be responsible with it and actually have a plan when you end up actually using this service. So now we're back on the main page for plastic. So what you're going to want to do is you want to sign up if you haven't signed up before. So for me, I just log in because I've already signed up before. But plastic is a very secure website. And I've noticed that if you actually don't even end up using the website for like a month, they actually end up sending you like a text message to confirm that you actually happen to be the person who's actually using it. So they make sure of this, that you are definitely going to be safe with your credit card information, because I have a lot of cards that I've actually put on plastic to get sign-up bonuses with, and it has a lot of them saved. I've taken some of them out because I'm like, well, I just don't want to, worry about someone possibly hacking. But the way that I've noticed of how they actually make it be difficult to even sign back into it, it makes me feel a little bit more peace of mind knowing that it's going to be very difficult for someone to actually end up hacking into plastic service, at least from what I've seen. So after you sign in and sign up, this is what Plastic's main page is going to look like. Now, I'm not going to scroll through all the different things because I don't want the information from my landlord or any of that type of stuff being out there on here. But pretty much what you're going to end up seeing is you're going to end up having drafts for where you actually end up wanting to send your checks to. So as you put in your credit card information, what they're going to do is they're going to actually send a physical check to the recipient that you're actually trying to pay to. And when you do this, make sure you actually give a decent amount of time for them to actually receive it. So typically you want to give about 2 weeks or so. You can do something that's shorter than that. And what will actually end up happening is that they'll actually might end up charging you. So what I usually do is if I actually do want to use it to try to hit some type of sign up bonus or whatever that it is, I typically try to do it earlier in the month. I'll do it somewhere near like, in the single digits of the month. So if we're in September right now, I would have done it in something like September 7th or 8th to try to schedule it for right near the end of the month. And just in case, I always make sure that it ends up being, I give myself a few days leeway. So if you end up having 30 days in the month, I would try to send it so that ends up going at like the 28th of the month, just in case you don't quite know if it's exactly going to land at the exact date. It's actually been pretty good about it, but yeah, it'll save the information, and then what it'll end up doing is it'll ask you for a lot of your information. It'll make sure that you actually it'll make sure that the person you're actually sending it to is a real source, and then after you do that, it's just going to send you an email saying that, okay, here is actually when we're going to charge your card. Then it lets you know when you actually have like the final time to say, you know what, actually I don't want to send this send this payment through. And then after that, your check will end up being sent, and I end up getting an email when my check is sent, and then I end up getting email when my landlord actually has deposited the check. So it actually makes you feel comfortable knowing like, oh my goodness, because sometimes you wonder like, hey, did they actually get it? But when I end up getting the email saying that the check was deposited, it gives me peace of mind knowing that the service has actually been a really good service to end up using. But this is going to be my tutorial for Plastic. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do have any questions, drop them down in the comment section down below. I'll do the best I can to answer them. If you actually like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace.